But first, Penny Wong today accused Susan Lee of going rogue on foreign policy. She's kidding, isn't she? Susan Lee and the Liberals oppose recognising a Palestinian state while terrorists still control huge swathes of the country. If that's going rogue, then common sense itself has been radicalised. Nevertheless, here's Penny Wong.
We know we're strongest when we speak with one voice. We all understand that as Australians, and the opposition should understand that too. The opposition of Australia running a rogue foreign policy is not in the nation's interests.
Translation, if you don't agree with me, you're a traitor. It really is an infantile form of argument. If anyone's gone rogue on foreign policy, it's the Albanese government, acting without bipartisan support in defiance of our major ally and, in effect, rewarding terrorists who are still busy terrorising. Here's Anthony Albanese having his historic moment at the United Nations earlier today, basking in the applause like he'd just solved world hunger by declaring broccoli a dessert.
Yesterday, Australia recognised the state of Palestine.
The Middle East is littered with the remains of world leaders, their schemes, their dreams and their ambitions. And our Prime Minister's fate will be no different. The Middle East is basically a junkyard of world leaders' peace plans. Anthony Albanese just parked another wreck.
In 1947, Australia was proud to be the first member of the United Nations to vote for the plan that made the modern state of Israel possible. But that plan always encompassed two states, a state of Israel and a state of Palestine, living side by side within internationally recognised borders.
Look, fine words, a lovely sentiment. Turn Albo's speech into a Hallmark card. It's just a pity the Palestinians don't have a vision for two states living side by side. If they did, well, there'd be one. But Albanese, like his Canadian, French and British buddies, thinks if he projects his values onto the Middle East, well, the Middle East will magically reflect them back, like yelling at your toaster to make a cappuccino. They imagine geopolitics is kind of like a software update, rather than a centuries-deep conflict rooted in religious ideologies.
Recognising the aspirations of the Palestinian people is about more than a seat, a voice and a vote in the councils of the world. It is about real hope for a place to call home. This is the same hope that sustained generations of Jewish people, the same hope that binds us all to our countries and cultures and drives us to want a better life for our children. Working together, we can build a future where instead of children in Gaza dying in pain, living in fear or being taught to hate, they can go to school and build a life in larger freedom.
Leaving aside our PM's ridiculous assertion that Israel's desire to be an established what had been its home for thousands of years is somehow akin to the Palestinians, the PM imagines that this conflict is all about civil rights, life, liberty and the pursuit of happiness, when, in actual fact, it's about death, terror and the pursuit of martyrdom, and has been for years. Here's Hamas celebrating civil rights on the same day that Anthony Albanese arrived in New York to recognise a Palestinian state. Gunmen executing people accused of consorting with Israelis. And I need to warn you, the following footage is distressing.
ووضع أيديهم بأيدي الاحتلال من أجل قتل أبناء شعبهم. لقد تقرر حكم الإعدام على هؤلاء المتخاذلين.
If you want the violence to stop, you don't announce a Palestinian state. You just demand that the violence stops. They're not doing that. There's no peace in the Middle East because Palestinian leaders have repeatedly chosen war rather than peace. And here's the ultimate problem with Anthony Albanese's UN excursion. There's an enormous gap between what leaders like Albanese think the Palestinian cause is and what Palestinians think the Palestinian cause is. There are Palestinians and supporters, even in Sydney, who want one state, Which part of from the river to the sea does Anthony Albanese not understand? For those up the back, from the river to the sea means goodbye Israel. Here are pro-Palestinian supporters in Sydney reacting to our government's decision to recognise a Palestinian state by chanting, quote, "We don't want the two states, we want 1948," referencing time before the modern state of Israel was re-established after 2,000 years in exile. Still, Western leaders continue in their belief that if they stand up at the United Nations and say Palestine exists as a peaceful entity, well, then it will.
Pour la paix entre le peuple israélien et le peuple palestinien, je déclare que la France reconnaît aujourd'hui l'État de Palestine.
Amazing, incredible. And today I declare that I recognise the state of Corsica. Anthony Albanese told the United Nations that Hamas must have no role in the Palestine he imagines.
Our recognition was predicated on commitments from the Palestinian Authority, reaffirming Israel's right to exist in peace and security, that Hamas turn over its weapons to Palestinian security forces and never controls Gaza again, and the PA must demilitarise, hold democratic elections and undertake wholesale reform to governance, finance and education.
So let me get this straight. He's insisting the Palestinian Authority hold democratic elections while insisting the Palestinian Authority must ensure that the Palestinian people aren't ever allowed to vote for certain Palestinian people, i.e. Hamas or their proxies. Talk about contradiction. Speaking of which, did you hear him there saying that the Palestinian Authority must demilitarise, hold elections, which they haven't for years, despite promising to, and completely reform their governance, their finances and their education? By that he means that their governance is a dictatorship, their finances are corrupt and their education system teaches children to hate Jews. But look, we're going to give you statehood and trust you to clean up those minor issues when you can. If the Palestinian Authority holds free and fair elections, stops stealing money and starts teaching children that Jews are humans, well, they'll literally cease being the Palestinian Authority. Israel's justified fear, especially after the October 7 slaughter, is that the moment a Palestinian state is realised, the Palestinians will work toward a one-state solution. And it's not hard to see why they fear that. The UK, as one of the nations that has joined Anthony Albanese in recognising Palestine, today opened a Palestine embassy in London. Joining British MPs to celebrate was the Palestine ambassador to the UK, Hussam Zumlot. You can see him here raising the Palestinian flag outside the newly minted Palestine embassy. Wonderful. But back in 2023, just 2 years ago, Sky News in the UK asked Hussam Zumlot if he would condemn the murder of 7 Jews outside a synagogue. Well, he refused to condemn their murders.
15-year-old boy kills 7 Israelis, including a newly married couple helping the injured, shot outside a synagogue on Holocaust Memorial Day. Do you condemn that?
Every life lost is absolutely a tragedy. And no one works for a non-violent solution to this more than us.
Do you condemn it?
No, I condemn the origin of all this. That's what needs to be condemned.
So you don't condemn that action?
We can sit here until the morning to talk about condemnation. We must stop the cycle of violence.
Well, isn't that fantastic? As of today, he is now Palestine's ambassador to the UK. I can't wait to see who we get. I note the Italians didn't join us in recognising Palestine, and here's how peace-loving pro-Palestinians responded. Give us a state so we can have peace or we'll smash everything up. And the international community expect Israel to willingly live next door to that. Easy for Anthony Albanese to say. Speaking of which, the Israelis should ask Anthony Albanese how his Sydney electorate office is going.